What's good, YouTube? Welcome to JT Picks, and today I'm going to be talking about Kanye West's 10th studio album, Donda. Was it good? Let's see. I have had about 3 weeks to really scrutinize Donda, the entire album, and here's what I've seen so far from it. Every single complaint that I have had about the album, sooner or later, was kind of washed away after another listen to it. For example, one of the first complaints I had about the album was how I thought that it didn't have any narrative structure, like why was Donda the first track when it wasn't in the first listening party? I liked it better when Jail was the closer. But as time went on, I realized that the Donda chant is the perfect opener. First off, it sets the album really nicely off. It kind of establishes this point that this album is about Kanye West's mother, which is a complaint that I have heard about the album before, that it's not really about his mom and people don't really get that. Well, with the Donda chant opening it up, it is fully about Donda West. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It literally opens up with him saying the mom's name 50 times. And not only that, I'll put a link for this video down in the description, but it's a kind of spiritual opener for Jail. Because if you know something about Jail, the tune for Jail is a guitar going da-da. The Donda chant, it goes Donda. It sounds literally the same. I know I'm sounding like a crazy person, but watch the video in the link in the description and you'll see. The album is actually pretty smartly set up, and narratively it actually makes quite a bit of sense, even though at first it didn't really. Another great thing about the album is how it's like malleable. Like, you can make any track list you want. Like, if you don't like the track list that we were given, if you don't like the track list with the Donda chant first, Jail, Praise God, Hurricane, God Breathed, and so on. You can make your own track list. You can shuffle it, and it's like listening to an entirely different album. You can make it say whatever you narratively want, which is a great thing about this album. I think that what Justin LeBoy said was correct. This album is light years in the future. And unfortunately, I think that while some of us get the genius of this album, others won't get the genius of this album till years in advance, because it is truly a futuristic album. So let me just go over what I don't like about the album. My least favorite track of the album would probably be Television. This is a complaint that a lot of people have also had. I mean, in, the sense of the real world, it makes sense why this track is in the album, in tribute to Pop Smoke and everything. But in the grand scheme of the album itself, it doesn't really make sense. It feels awkward. It feels like it shouldn't really be there. It feels unfinished. And I know that some people like the piano. God knows I do. I feel like it's really nice. Sometimes I can get kind of hyped up by it. But then there are the other times where the vocals, the edited vocals, because the original track uses quite a few expletives, and so the edited makes it sound all choppy. At the end, it's really not my favorite track. I understand why it's there, but it shouldn't be there. And hopefully in a future, maybe deluxe edition or redux kind of this album, I hope that it's fixed by just being removed. My second least favorite track would have to be Keep My Spirit Alive. Let me just say this clearly. West Side Gun's verse, I hate it. With everything in me, I hate it. It's one of those verses that I listen to and I'm just like, I want to make fun of it. Like with most of the bad or even moderate tracks on this album, there's a 50-50 chance I'll listen to it. But specifically with Keep My Spirit Alive, if I do listen to it, I will literally ask Siri to skip 2 minutes into the song so I can get to the decent part, which is Ye's verse. Other than that, I think West Side Gun's verse is absolutely horrendous, and I want to make fun of it every single time I hear it. Thank God. Thank God. I can't. I just don't. I really don't like his verse. Conway the Machine's verse is decent, but there's not really judging it because it's so dang short. And Casey's hook, as far as choruses go, is okay. I've honestly heard stuff from Casey that I like more. I like Kanye's verse. It's not like his best verse. It's not like a top 10 Ye verse of all time, but it's a decent enough verse to redeem a little bit of this song. My next least favorite track would probably have to be Jesus Lord. Now, hold on. I know that some people view this track as the golden standard of this album, saying it's one of the best tracks. I heavily disagree. While it's not a bad track by any means, I wouldn't say it's great either. If you are going to make a track 8 to 12 minutes long, it better be a good track. For example, Runaway. Whenever I hear Runaway, the track is 10 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like 10 minutes to me because it's such a good track that I get lost in. Same with Come to Life. Although Come to Life isn't as long as Jesus Lord or Runaway, I don't really feel 6 minutes. It feels like 2 minutes every time I listen to this track because it's so good. Jesus Lord, on the other hand, while I really, I can say really forever, love the hook, and the verses are good in their own, aspects when you look at them by themselves, altogether, especially with the outro, it makes kind of a messy track for me. I don't see what the chorus has to do with Ye's verse or Jay's verse, Jay Electronica, or even in the part 2 version, I don't see what it has to do with any of the 3 members of the Lox's verse. It's a kind of a messy track, and the outro just makes it even more confusing. I like to listen to this song, and, I'll get into it. I like listening to Ye's storytelling on his verse. It's pretty good. Sometimes I gotta really think about the lyrics and think about Ye's verse. What point is he trying to get across? Because even to this day, I'm still not absolutely sure. When he said big bro blacked out and all you seen was a light, some people's interpretations of that line that I've read is that it was he shot the guy who killed his brother and he blacked out and saw the light once he shot him. Or my personal thing was that when he said, I've seen everything but Christ. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you haven't heard the song or you haven't read the lyrics, because I'm just referencing the lyrics to the first verse of Jesus Lord. I'm saying that Big Bro blacked out, that as soon as he said, I've seen everything but Christ, that he blacked out and realized that he was doing wrong. He saw the light. He saw a revelation of truth that what he's doing is wrong and he needs to get his life together. So as far as that goes with the chorus, the first verse with the chorus, it makes sense, but then Jay's verse comes in and ruins that, and so does the Lox's verses in part 2. And really, it's a messy track because then you get all that and you get Larry Hoover Jr.'s outro, and then the track really doesn't make sense. So for those reasons, that track ends up not being my favorite Donda song. I feel like it's a good song, but it can use a lot of work. Okay, with that out of the way, I feel like those are my least favorite tracks to moderate tracks. I kind of don't consider the Donda chant a track because, if I listen to it, it'll probably be the first 20 seconds, and then the final 30 seconds, I'm like, I'm not going to listen to someone say the name Donda for 50 times. Maybe 10, maybe 15 times, but not 50. When I think of an album, if there's an interlude where someone's talking or something, I don't really consider that, a track. I don't know if everybody else does, but I personally don't. It's funny how this album's twisted everything for me, because some of the tracks that I thought would be my favorites have turned to they're a good track, but I don't listen to it all the time. I'm talking about Pure Souls, mainly. That's what comes to mind. Pure Souls is a great track. It's fun. It's catchy. I listen to it a lot, but it's not my favorite track, and I thought it would be from the listening parties. And praise God has actually become one of my favorite tracks, and I used to think that would be my least favorite track. See where this is going? So with all that out of the way, let me just talk about my favorite tracks. I'm going to name probably my top 5 favorite tracks, and I don't even know if that will do it justice because I love a lot of this album. I'm just going to start with my number 1 favorite track, which is Come to Life. Easily, it's the best of Donda, if not one of Kanye West's best tracks in existence. It's like Runaway if it was Christian, because Runaway has it's a gorgeous track, but it's so deep and it stays with you. And Come to Life does the same exact thing, but it's Christian. I truly love Come to Life. The piano is beautiful. The first time I heard it, I got a little bit emotional.
I was like, oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life.
Then my brother was like, that sounds like a 6th grader made it. And you know what was funny? A 6th grader actually played the piano part, so... I guess what some people say about Kanye West crapping on a plate and us calling it genius might be true. But, with that said, lyrically, it is one of Kanye West's best tracks. Let's talk about my second favorite, which is Hurricane. Originally in the parties, when I first heard it, I was like, okay. The second party, I was absolutely in love with it. And then rumors came out that they were removing the choir. And I was like, I'm not going to be a happy fan. You can watch past videos of me saying that. Literally in my freaking Country Relate review, I was talking about Kanye more than half of the time and talking about how if they didn't have the choir on that track, I would be angry. So I'm happy they decided to keep the choir in it. They, of course, changed a few things from the second listening party. And while I do miss some of those changes, I'm fine with this new version, and it's good enough for me to love. And what kind of frustrates me with some people's criticisms of this album, because, like, I can get valid criticisms. Like, if you're just not rocking with the album, it's like, okay, I get that. But if you're going,
this album's straight up satanic,
and it gets demonic,
or something like that, I can't. I saw a comment once like, is there any moment in Donda where you can praise Jesus? And I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, there is. There are multiple times in Donda where I feel like absolutely begin to fall down in worship. In Hurricane, there's those moments. In Come to Life, there are those moments. In Pure Souls, there are those moments. They're all over the album. Where, like in Hurricane, where he gives the bars, God made it rain, but the devil made it hail. Worship to the Most High, you know what I mean? When The Weeknd goes, he won't let me down, I know you won't. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it gives worship to God. When that lyric comes up, I'm pointing to the sky, I'm closing my eyes, my hand is on my heart. I'm just like, you won't let me down, God, thank you. It's a beautiful song, and a good chunk of the tracks on Donda are pretty beautiful and pretty, I can give worship to God for those tracks. I think one of the best things about Donda is how it is Kanye kind of looking at his life. And when you think about it, because people can go, Donda isn't truly about Kanye's mom, it's about himself. And you're correct, it is about himself. But that's kind of the point. It's about himself and looking at his life and looking at everything that has to do with his life. His relationship with God, his relationship with his mother, his outside relationships. But then at the end of the day, when you realize it's called Donda because a parent's legacy is their child. You realize that, right? It's Donda because Donda lives on through Kanye West. And I don't mean like, oh, her spirit lives on through Kanye West in some demonic form or something. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying her legacy lives on through Kanye West. As long as Kanye doesn't forget his mother, the idea of Donda stays alive. So let's backtrack off of that and talk a few other things. I don't think these things that I'm about to mention kind of take away from the album, But what they do is the album is missing these things. That's the way to put it. The album is missing these things, and it doesn't make the albums worse or anything, but they would only improve the album if they were there. So let's talk about those things. First up, we got, missing verses, missing tracks, and the fact that you would make part twos of tracks. Those things, while they don't take away from the album for me, they if these things were changed, it would add to the album's greatness. So one thing I hear constantly is that the album's too long. And I'm kind of getting sick of hearing that. Because when you think about it, tell me what tracks you would remove. Most of the times people just say, oh, remove the part twos and tell the vision. Duh. Like, of course, remove those tracks. I say that one of the things that needs to happen is taking the part twos, merging them with the part ones. So, for example, Jail, have it, the original, put Jay's verse at the end, DaBaby's verse in the middle, add Manson's vocals throughout. Honestly, I really liked Marilyn Manson's vocals on Jail. It kind of makes it more of a hype song for me. And I know what some of y'all are thinking. You're probably going, Marilyn Manson's demonic or whatever, Satanist, Sultan. That was the point. If you're saying Kanye West is associating himself with those people because Kanye's a Satanist or whatever, I don't want to be mean, but you are very, very foolish to say that and be so closed-minded. Like, if he's doing that, it was a point. The track Jail was about cancel culture. Guess who's going to jail? Guess who's being canceled? He literally put people who are currently being canceled on that track. Marilyn Manson, DaBaby, who literally is getting canceled. Now, I'm sorry, while I don't agree with DaBaby's statements at all that he made at Rolling Loud, he was just being an idiot. He wasn't actually being homophobic or anything. I read his statements. I watched the video where he said what he said. He was just being a big dummy, like saying something that shouldn't be said, but at the same time, like, he wasn't actually being, it's like a child. He was being a child. He wasn't speaking with wisdom or anything. Like, he wasn't using his brain at that moment. But does that mean he was actually being homophobic? No. He just said something really stupid, something unnecessary. So I can understand, like, why Kanye put these people on this track. And I can get the point of this track. When you say, guess who's going to jail tonight? God's going to post my bail tonight. I see it as meaning we are being canceled by the culture. But guess what? In the end, that doesn't matter because God is the one whose opinion matters. God's going to post my bail. It doesn't matter what y'all say. So, like, Kanye isn't justifying anything Marilyn Manson has done or DaBaby has done or Jay-Z has done. Even though he put Jay-Z on the verse, kind of, I felt like Jay-Z's verse didn't belong there. But it's good. I like it. It can stay there. But it's out of place when you think about it in the terms of cancel culture. But Kanye isn't justifying what they've done. He's just saying it is not the culture's place to put to sentence you. They are not the judge, jury, and executioners. In the end, God is, not the culture. So guess who's going to jail tonight? I am. But you know what? God's going to post my bail. And why is God going to post the bail? Because he's the one who's going to end up judging, not the culture. That was the point of that track. Now, I've taken my own interpretation of it where I've said that, like, the song can also technically be, Christians because Christians are supposed to be persecuted in the end. That lots of Christians will be going to jail or whatever and, like, screaming out that God's going to post their bail eventually. But that's just my little crazy mind and my little interpretation of it. There are so many good things about this album, though, that I could just flat out talk about, look, analyze for hours and days. I had heard Kanye West music in the past, And when Jesus is King came out, I wasn't a Kanye fan, but I heard the album and went, this is one of his best albums, without, hearing any of the other albums or stuff. Like, I'd heard Good Life up at that point, and that was probably it, maybe Stronger. But, within, after like a year or two passed and I had gone into Kanye's music, I was like, yo, Jesus is King is not his best album. It's not. I think it's a good album. I still love it. There are parts of Jesus is King that made me go bananas for it. But do I think it's a great album? No. Do I think it's a good album? Yes. But it definitely is not one of his inspired albums. But Donda it is the most Kanye thing he has released. But with this album, it was so Kanye. Tracks like Moon further bring out that Kanye glow. And well deserved. They're amazing tracks that make you float. No Child Left Behind makes me actually float to the ceiling every single time I hear it. It's been 3 weeks and that track still brings out a special feeling in me, which not a lot of albums do, because most of the times after 1 week, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I could talk about like all of the tracks, but I'm not, because this video's already running pretty long. It's probably going to be like 30 minutes. But I will just give my album rating. So I have thought about rating this album. I've given it so much thought. I knew it was going to be a high up there album. I think it is the album of the year. I don't think another album can top it. I hope one can. I hope it surprises me, but I don't think one can. But at the end of the day, I would think this album deserves at least an 8.5 and at most a 9. And right now, as of this current moment, I am leaning towards giving the album a 9. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you completely disagree with me, just put your opinions down in the comments. Remember, there's only 2 things I know. I know that Jesus is King, and I know that JT, moi, knows best. See you all next time.